in psychology.
In psychology.
FOMO.
Reading psychology.
I literally watched hundreds of videos about psychology and trading, but nothing was working at the end of the day. So after losing for about 1 year in Forex, I actually decided to go back to the ground where I actually started everything. 3 months later, I actually came to realize that there were actually 3 things that were holding me back. And these are the 3 things that I'm about to share with you guys today. So the first point is education. You'll actually be surprised by the number of people that are blaming psychology for their wrong education and their wrong information about trading. You know, most of us actually jump steps when we are starting out in the trading space. That's the biggest reason why we are actually blaming psychology. And there is a very big number of Forex mentors that are actually misguiding young traders that their problem is not the education, their problem is psychology. If you do this for a long time and you have been totally losing, and only thing that the person teaching you could tell you is the problem that you have is psychology, your brain doesn't think. That is the worst thing that you could do to a trader. There is actually a very big misconception in young traders about psychology and education. First and foremost, you need to work on your education. The psychological part is always going to step in. There is always going to be one day where you mess up with your psychology a little bit. But if you have the wrong education, guys, you are losing trade after trade. And at the end of the day, you're taking it back to the psychological part, then you ain't gonna grow. You always have to find ways to educate yourself. Before you blame psychology, first look at the education that you have in your brain. Before you get onto yourself, at first look at the charts. You're like, okay, before I got in early, well, these are the criteria that I had to get in. First look at the education that you have before you blame onto the psychological part. Because listen, the worst thing that you could do to yourself as a trader is actually beating yourself up. Because after having a losing day, you need to find ways to calm yourself down. Understand that everything is okay. It's just a losing day. You're gonna come back stronger, and just find out ways how you can make the next day better. So guys, find ways to educate yourself to the maximum. You always have to be growing. And each and every trade that you lose, before you say, my psychology, this, my psychology, that, first look at your criteria, your education. I studied this and this and this, and I did the same thing, but I lost the trade. That ain't psychology. That problem is with the education. And most people don't actually realize that the problem is with their education. The problem has never been their psychology. The problem is not their emotion, because the moment they get into the trade, stop loss is hit. It's not that they pull the stop loss to break even. They just constantly losing. And at the end of the day, that ain't psychology. That is an educational problem. And I'm not telling you guys to strategies and everything, but you need to find ways of improving the strategy. If you see something is not working for a long period of time, then you need to switch to something else. If you don't want to switch, then find ways to improve. That's something that you need to do by yourself, and education is one of those parts. So the second tip of the day, guys, is trust your analysis. The only reason why we actually analyze is for us to prepare ourselves for what is gonna happen in the market prior to it happening. Now, if you get into the trade that hasn't went with your analysis, that means that you're actually gambling, because you didn't prepare yourself for what is happening in the market at that specific time. And the only reason why we actually analyze is for us to keep our emotions at bay. Before you actually get into the trade, make sure you are getting into the trade the exact way that you analyzed that trade prior to the market approaching your zone of interest. Now, there are going to be certain times when you need to improvise, but improvising does not call for each and every trade. Improvising is in rare case scenarios. You are not gonna improvise on every trade. If you improvise on every trade, guys, that means that you are gonna keep on losing and blame everything to psychology. If you are taking trades that you didn't analyze, that means that you are gambling. And at the end of the day, you are gonna blame your psychology, and yet you didn't analyze that trade. Tip number 3 is self-awareness practice. How do you come to self-awareness practice? This all comes from education, because the self-awareness part really correlates with the education part. Whenever you take this losing trade, you're like, okay, so what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? So after identifying what you're doing right, you make yourself self-aware. This is not gonna take you like 2 trades to figure it out, because it actually took me some time. But in the long run, you will learn to be aware when your emotions kick in. After practicing this, you'll be aware that, oh, I actually did the same thing the last time I lost. No, I'm not gonna do this one this time. Let me jump to the next trade. So the bonus for you guys is hit the subscribe button, man. So the bonus that I got for you guys is risk management slash demo trading. If you've tried the education and it doesn't work, you've tried the self-awareness, it doesn't work, you either go to the risk management part or you actually go to demo trading. Now, I know most of you guys don't like demo trading, but I traded on demo for 3 whole months, guys, and this was after a full year of losing. It doesn't really make sense depositing money that you know you are gonna lose, because I was depositing money and I'm like, bro, this is not gonna come back. And I don't think there is any of you that likes that feeling. If all the 3 have actually not worked, you could actually divide the amount of money that you're risking per trade by 10. Let's assume you are risking $100. Divide the $100 by 10. Risk $10 per trade. If you're risking $10 per trade, then risk $1 per trade. If you're risking $1 per trade, then you need to risk 0.10 per trade. I believe that will give you some longevity, right? Give you some longevity while you actually trying to work out with these 3 tips that I've given you. That marks the end of the video, guys. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'm gonna see you all guys in the next one, guys.